Day 1, it's more than just the food. So I hope you are all doing incredibly well. As I said, if you have any questions, please do drop them in the comments. If I'm not able to answer them right now, I will make sure that I answer them after we have finished. So day 1, about understanding why it's more than just what we eat. If you have a relationship with food where you're either emotionally triggered, you overeat, you binge eat, or you don't eat at all, there's usually a deeper reason, and it's not about the connection with the food. It's normally something that you've got to understand your own relationship with food and why you eat what you eat or why you don't eat at all. So there's various degrees, and it's the first step to understanding the reason as to why it's more than just the food is understanding your why. What is your reason? So you may actually need to get to know yourself a little bit deeper over the next few days. So if you've got a pen and paper, then I suggest that you make some notes and you ask any further questions that you need to, and you will be asked to go away and write down a few bits and pieces. And sorry, I'm messing with the dog who's got a coat on his head because he's poorly sick. I would like for you over the next 3 days to start writing down where you're at with your relationship with your body and your food right now. So what I would like you to do is to keep a little journal for the next few days and think about how your following feelings are. Is it an emotional trigger that sets you to want to overeat or to not eat at all? Is it an event that has happened or something that's reoccurring that triggers your emotions, something that you haven't dealt with quite just yet? Certain things that haven't been dealt with could be PTSD, and lots of people want to hide that and bury it deep inside, but more and more we need to address something that's happened when it's traumatic, because that can also be triggered with your relationship with your food and with your body. So was it an event? Is it something that's traumatic that's happened? Has it been something that you've not been able to release yet? Is it something that's in your memory that is triggered by certain smells, certain experiences, certain weather? There's all kinds of things that may set you into a poor relationship with food. So this is why it's important to have this journal over the next 3 days, and let's see where we can address what is going on for you. So events, is it certain times of the day? Is it a point where you remember from a childhood memory that dinner had to be at a certain time, and if you weren't there it created stress, or that you didn't want to eat it, or if you were told if you didn't eat it, then there's thousands of people starving in the world, and if you don't eat it, then the stories that were played by your parents and adults. So is it that certain times are triggering it, and if you didn't eat it then you'd have to have it the next day, or you must eat it all at one go? Is it certain people? So if you're surrounding yourself with certain people who build stress and anxiety within you, does that trigger you to again overeat? It might not even be food, it could be alcohol, it could be anything that takes you into a stressed situation that makes you overindulge or not have any part of anything at all. And as I said, it could be the emotions. So is it a certain time of the month? Is it a birthday? Is it an event that's happened that the emotions are triggered to that time frame as well? And how do your emotions react with it? So what I would like for you to connect with is, what are you triggered to eat? So as I've just said, we've gone through the whens, events, times, peoples and whys. And then I want you to really think about, what is it that you're triggered to eat? If you are triggered to eat something over and over and over again, once one of these habits has reoccurred or these emotions has reoccurred, what is it that you're actually triggered to eat? And remember, it's not the food itself, it's the reason why. So we need to associate the reason why as to what it is that you're triggered to eat on that point. And then I want you to think about, why are you triggered it? Which one of the 4 events has happened? Is it an event? Is it time? Is it people? Or is it emotions? So what is it that you're triggered to eat? And then why are you triggered to eat it? Or why are you triggered not to eat as well? So this journey is more than just the food, remember. It's about the reasons why you have this disconnect to your body and to food. And then, what do you eat? So why are you triggered to eat? What are you triggered to eat? what do you eat? What is it that you go to? What is it that you feel emotionally? Usually it's not the healthiest version of food, so let's not think about it being a banana or a smoothie or something else. That's something we can work towards. But right now, in this present moment, if you were to be triggered or stressed or upset today, what would it be that you would go to? Would it be potato crisps, cookies, ice cream, cake, overindulgence of anything, takeaway foods, eat it once and then have to go back again for seconds? What is it that will trigger that emotion within you? And then how do you eat it? When you've got this food that you associate with your trigger, emotion, events, time, people, then how do you eat it? Are you eating it in a rushed state? So lots of the time when these events have happened that have triggered our stresses, we're getting the food and we're not connecting to it at all. So we're eating it so quickly that we're not even accepting it into our body. So we're putting in more and more and more. It could be at the fridge whilst you're actually not even set it out. If it's something that's in the fridge, if it's a takeaway, you haven't even got it on the plate. You're just scooping it out of the cartons. What is it? Is it ice cream that you don't scoop out and measure so you have a controlled amount that's in there? Is it a case of, we see it all on the movies, so a lot of the time that can be in your subconscious, because in the American movies you see that they're eating emotionally, they get the ice cream and they're crying and they're watching a movie, and that can sit in your subconscious, even as a small child, to think, well, that's what they associate with emotions, so I'm going to eat the ice cream too to make myself feel better. But does it? So how do you eat it? Are you just eating it mindlessly, for example? Are you putting on the TV and just zoning out and then mindlessly eating, whether it be the cookies or the ice cream or whatever? Think about how it processes for the next day or two. And then how do you feel when you're eating it? How does it actually physically make you feel? And how do you feel once you've finished it? So that could be within the hour, 2 hours, or even the next day. Monitor how it makes you feel once you have connected emotions to the food that you've eaten. And then I want you to know how you feel, like I've said, the 2 hours after, but also the day after. It's really important, and whether you're feeling that you're lethargic, whether you're feeling, are you guilty about it? Are you feeling that you're beating yourself up now because you've gone through that emotional cycle? Is it a fact that when you have that emotional cycle, you have a disordered association to eating, and it could be the fact that you've actually purged, or you've made yourself sick, or you've taken laxatives or something? What is it that you would do in that situation? For me, many years ago, I would try to be sick. If I couldn't be sick, I'd take the laxatives, and I would also go to the gym as well and work out in the gym for 2 to 3 hours. So I'd go to the gym for 2 to 3 hours to try and work off whatever it was that had triggered my emotional eating to overindulge, and to take the laxatives as well. So that's what I would like for you to do today, is to keep that little journal, write down. I'm just going to recap for you again. So what do you get triggered by? Is an event? Is it time? Is it like a time of the year, a time of the month, an event that's happened, at a certain time? Is it people that you surround yourself? If you're with certain people, do they take you to the point where they're either, and this is the situation, they can either be really good for you or really bad for you. So if you have a person who overindulges at everything, then your subconscious could actually fall into play with that as well and want to do the same thing. So even though you know it won't make you feel good, you might follow suit of that same person that overeats, and you do the same thing knowingly that it's going to make you feel poorly. It could be that the fact that the person makes you so stressed and it's not bringing you joy that you overeat to compensate, to try and numb out the noise. It could be in a different way that you stop eating because you're hanging out with somebody who is very, very slim, and in your perception, the only way that you can be that way is by not eating. But again, that's a comparison thing, which we'll talk about tomorrow, and not trying to comparalize? No, not to compare yourself with someone else. There is a word for that. I can't think what it is right now. So that's what I would like for you to do. So there is 9 points there for you to go over. I'm going to drop them in the comments again so you can go over and see where you're at, because we're going to go through it again tomorrow. So that's the emotional attachment of how you can build this relationship with food, and why. So for example, if you're triggered today after watching this could be something that you need to write down. I watched it's not just about the food. By 4:15 or 4:45, I was triggered to go and eat something, or I was triggered to not eat anything at all, or what was it? Write it down. How did you respond to it? Was it the time? And then what were you triggered to eat? Was it bread? Was it cookies? Was it chocolate? Was it ice cream? What was it? The reasons why. It could also be that you're just too hungry. So go back to thinking about time. Have I fasted non-intentionally? And then before you know it, fasting is for a purpose. It could be for a medical reason, or at the moment it's Ramadan. And generally what tends to happen, we'll just talk about Ramadan for a little bit here, it's a religious act that happens because of the moon and the way every year it's a different time of year. So if you're Muslim, you fast, but what tends to happen, and I know that I saw this in Dubai, that they'll fast from sundown until, from sundown they will eat and then they won't eat again. I can't remember the exact logistics, it's gone. But what tends to happen is they overeat, and usually it's higher fatty foods, it's very high carbohydrates, very high in protein, and it's not allowing your body to break it down, which is peristalsis. So fasting, for medical terms, is good. Fasting for religious reasons is personal. What you need to make sure that if you are fasting, that when you eat, you're eating healthy and you're eating in balance, and you're eating where your body can break it down and digest. So how do you feel? The 9 points I would really like you to focus through. So coming back to the point where it's more than just the food. It's what is triggering you. If you have a disassociated relationship with food, what are the triggers that are creating it for you? Is it a relationship that you have around you right now that's not fulfilling you? Is it the fact that you're not having enough joy around your life and you need to have more excitement and more happiness? Is it the fact that you keep telling yourself, I will be happy when I've lost weight? But what happens is I'm not losing the weight, so I get distressed, I'm focused on it too much, I feel disheartened, I feel inadequate, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and eat again. So that's a vicious cycle. So is it the people that you're hanging around with? Is it the relationship? Is it the work? Is it something that's stressing you out that you need something to rebound stresses in a different manner? What is it that's triggering that relationship with food? Is it something as well that's been sat in your subconscious that you've been told since you were a little girl, or you were in a relationship previously that somebody has said something to you and you've held on to that, and your reaction is with food? Now, I've spoken to many women, many clients who have been part, unfortunately, of abuse, either physically, sexually, or mentally. And what happens is when they feel that they're not good enough, they're not adequate enough, they surround themselves with an extra layer of weight to try and hide behind that. So that is also an emotional trigger that needs to be released. But it's about focusing on where it's come from, how long have you had it, and do you know when it began? So they are your that's your little journaling homework this evening, and I would love for you to join me tomorrow so that we can go over where you've been in the last 24 hours. I would also love you to pop your comments in the comments below. Ask any questions that you need to ask. Hashtag if you're watching replay, and I hope that this is going to help you over the next 3 days to realize that it's so much more than the food. It's our behavior and our reactions, both physically and emotionally as well. So if you have anything to ask me, please go ahead. Thank you for joining. We're only 15 minutes. I thought it was going to be about 30, but sometimes we haven't always got a lot of time to watch on replays. So I hope that I will see you tomorrow for day 2.